Day 11 and it feels so good. Hey guys, welcome back to 31 Days of NaNoWriMo Prep. Today I'll be teaching you about third person point of view for part 2 of this 3-parter. So if you haven't watched yesterday's video or any of the previous NaNoWriMo Prep videos, then I will link to the playlist up there in the cards and also in the description along with the corresponding blog posts. So if you're more of a visual learner as opposed to an auditory one, you can check out the blog posts over at readwritelovefiction.com and get all of that information in the written word. It might seem weird that we've skipped over second person point of view and jumped right to third, but there's a method to my madness. For now, just trust that I have good reason for leaving the lesser known point of view triplet for the end of this 3-parter. So what is third person? Third person is the point of view where the narrator is a character outside of the story you're telling. Wait! You gasp, astounded? A third-person narrator is a character? The answer is yes. Well, sort of. It's a character that does not have an active role in the story you are telling. If they did have an active role, then the story would be in first person instead of third. Of course, this is something you can feel free to play with. In the book Thief, author Markus Zusak experiments with point of view by having Death act as sort of an all-knowing first-person narrator. It's an interesting play on the norm. However, that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're strictly discussing your normal, run-of-the-mill third-person point of view. Boring, I know, but necessary. Anyway, yes, a third-person narrator is a character in your story. In a way. The most interesting third-person narrators are the ones who have some kind of involvement in the story, be it an opinion, some personal investment, etc. You don't actually have to tell the reader who this narrator is. In fact, you shouldn't, because odds are there isn't a way for you to do so without breaking the fourth wall and turning your third-person narrator into a first-person narrator. But it's a good idea for you to know who your narrator is. Technically, the narrator could be you, but well, are you the best person to tell this story? I mean, obviously you're the best person to write the story, but are you the best person to tell it? Or is there a character locked away somewhere in your big, beautiful brain that can bring an interesting perspective to the story? Now, maybe your narrator won't be very opinionated at all, and that's okay. But even then, a few biases will always slip out. That's where the fun comes in for the reader. That's how you guide your reader to feel the way you want them to feel. Yesterday we talked about how a first-person narrator is an unreliable narrator, but how technically so is every other type of narrator. This is where that comes in. The narrator's biases, whether they're all over the place or just in a few instances, or whether or not they're your own biases, make said narrator an unreliable one. If that upsets you at all, don't let it. That's the fun of a novel for a reader, trying to sort out for yourself where biases are or aren't clouding the perspective of the story being told. Unlike first-person narrators, third-person narrators won't refer to themselves at all. Instead, their pronoun vocabulary will almost strictly consist of he's, she's, and they's. Sometimes a third-person narrator might break the fourth wall and address the reader as you, but again, not in a way that would really include the reader in the story. They might say something like, "And you, dear reader, must understand that," but that's really the extent of it. Now let's move on to the part where I share some third-person point of view novels with you. Some examples are Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's, or Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, The Giver by Lois Lowry, Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. When we discussed first-person point of view yesterday, I mentioned that no one point of view was better than the other, and that's still true. It's up to you to weigh the pros and cons of each individual point of view in relation to the story you want to tell. To help you do that, here's some of the pros and cons of third-person point of view. The first is that a novel, or any type of story, written in third person is more likely to be considered literary than a first or second person novel. If you're interested in writing literary fiction, this is probably the point of view for you. The second pro is that third person point of view can allow your own unique author voice to shine through. When writing a novel in first person, you can end up limited by the type of vocabulary that your narrator might have. In third person, on the other hand, you have a lot more freedom. Want to use copious amounts of metaphors? That's okay, because it's your style, and it doesn't really matter if your main character would use them or not. Have a huge vocabulary that you like to show off? Well, I mean, make sure that you know what those words mean and that they're not going to be too off-putting to the average reader. But other than that, you can feel free to use them because it doesn't matter if your main character knows what they mean or not. Of course, delving into your main character's voice while writing in third person can also be a strong choice. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you have the option to explore your own writing voice, whereas that isn't really an option in first person. Third, it allows for variety with third person limited and omniscient point of views. We don't really have enough time to get into the nitty-gritty of what the differences between these two point of views are, but if you'd like me to make a separate video about them in the future, let me know. I view this variety as a pro because there's so many different ways you can shape these point of views to meet the specific needs of your story. Whereas with first and second person, there's less chances to experiment. If you enjoy a sense of freedom with your writing, you may really enjoy this point of view. Now let's jump into cons. The first is that with third person point of view, it takes more effort to make the main character relatable and sympathetic to the reader. While limited point of view may help with this a little, especially if you choose to use the character's voice instead of your own, you're still not entirely in that character's head. This means it will take more effort to get your reader to the point of seeing your character as relatable or even likable. For some writers, this isn't a very big hurdle to conquer at all. For others, it is. I know that my main character in my series The Caspian Chronicles was pretty flat until I shifted to first person, but of course, this was just my experience with this one specific project. The circumstances surrounding your novel may be completely different. Hell, the circumstances surrounding my future projects may be completely different. The second con is that it takes more work to establish a strong voice. I know that I also listed personal author voice as a pro, but the fact of the matter is, while using your own writing voice is a pro, it is also harder to do. In first person, the voice is your character's voice, which is almost always naturally strong so long as your character is a strong character. Strong meaning well developed. In third person, though, it can be easy to fall into a dull, dry, essay-like voice that'll make your readers feel like they're plodding their way through a dissertation on the texture of dirt rather than experiencing a highly visceral work of art. I mean, if I wrote my blog posts the way I write my college essays, my readers would have been gone in 3 seconds. Instead, I use my own personal writing voice, which hopefully makes the information a little more interesting. It's the same with your novel. You've got to make the effort to find your own writing voice and use it to make your novel interesting to readers. I'll end this video the same way I ended yesterday's, with a reminder that your decision on which point of view to use should be based on what your novel really needs. Do you feel like your personal writing voice is strong enough to carry a novel? Would your story benefit from or be hindered by a limited or omniscient point of view? Figure these things out, and the answer might be simpler than you think. Before you make your decision though, make sure you check back in tomorrow for day 12, where we'll finally be exploring the unconventional second person point of view as the end to this 3-parter. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to hit the like button. Also click subscribe and the bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video, which of course is every day this month. Also make sure to check out all of my social medias. They are all linked in the description below. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, so if you're on any of those, come find me. Also make sure to check out my personal blog, readwritelovefiction.com. Not only do I post the corresponding blog posts to these videos there, but I also post interesting musings about my book writing process that I don't even talk about on my writing vlogs, you know, so if you want to have a little bit of extra insight to my writing process, go over there and check it out. Also, make sure you check out my official author website, LaytonJWilliams.com, which is where I post any and all updates to my series, The Caspian Chronicles, before I post them anywhere else. So if you want to be the first to know anything about my series, then I suggest you go over there and check that out. And again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!